Hello. Oh, I'm loud. Hi. Today I just wanted to sit down and talk with you all. And before I get started, I want to preface that everything that I'm going to talk about today, I didn't do by myself. It took many, many villagers. Thank you so much. Thank you all for the friends that became family and the family that supported me always. And all of it was co created, so thank you. I'm going to start where it all started for me. It started with a jacaranda tree. And I grew up in Delhi, and there was a jacaranda tree outside my parents' house. And that's kind of how I think of Delhi, and that's what I missed the most when I left. I had this strong connection with the tree. My parents told me that the monkey that lived on the tree was actually my parents, and that's where I came from. But beyond that, this is also Delhi. Delhi is the third largest city in the world. This is what it looked like in 1998, and this is it in 2018. So in the span of my own lifetime and of being in Delhi, you see how much the green turned into gray and how many more people moved in. And as the city grew and grew really fast and is still growing really fast, everyone needs water. But the city is water scarce, and so is the country overall. India has 14% of the world's population, but only 6%, nope, other way around, 16% of the world's population, but only 4% of the world's freshwater resources. And the amount of water available for each person is decreasing by about 30%. So there's this increase in number of people, but decrease in the amount of water available for each person, and everyone needs water. And then layered on top of that is a problem of the usage. So the Delhi Jal Board, or the DJB, they're the municipal board kind of in charge of cleaning, distributing the water around the city. And they imagine that about 170 liters for each person each day. That's kind of what they plan for. But research kind of shows that that actual usage is very different. Lower income households use as low as 20 liters per day, while higher income households use up to 450 liters per day for each person. So there are all these issues. There's the increase in demand, the decrease in supply, and this issue of overconsumption. And as I kind of started this project last year and trying to understand where I can really interact with it and where I can be as a social designer, I was really thinking of this issue of overconsumption. People are overusing water, and there isn't enough. So in what ways can we reduce that? How can we not use so much water when there isn't enough? And I started doing this research into the connection that people have with the environment. And it's kind of based on this idea of biophilia, which is people's innate desire to connect with nature. But what I realized beyond that, it's not just that people benefit from being in nature. It's not just like physical, emotional, and mental benefits from being in nature. The environment also benefits from people being more connected to the environment. Because when people aren't connected, there's this apathy. People don't care if there's degradation to the environment because you don't feel bonded to it. And this kind of happens in three ways: through affect, so how you feel towards nature; cognition, your thoughts and beliefs about nature; and behavior, how much time you spend in nature. And it got me thinking, this is kind of why I'm doing the project, right? That's me as a kid with the jacaranda tree. I was always connected to nature in odd ways, and that's why I'm here today. So how can I leverage this bidirectional connection, this benefit to the people and the environment, but apply it specifically to the issue of water? And I wanted to do this by connecting people to their natural water resources. So not just building connections to nature overall, but specifically to where your water comes from. So this project is about growing connections between people and their natural water source to build attitudes, behaviors, and practices of water sustainability. To break it down even further, it looks like the thesis goal of connecting people to their water sources, to increase pro-environmental attitudes and behaviors, increase water conservation, less overconsumption, to tackle that really big goal that I talked in the beginning of all the problems around Delhi and the water supply. And I started doing this and did it in three main ways. So mapping, sharing, and sustaining. And I'm going to talk through all three of these in however much time I have left. So let's start with mapping. So this was really nice. I got to go back home. I got to go back to Delhi. I have to cough. I got to go back to Delhi and I got to visit different water locations around the city. I got to talk. I have to cough again. So this journey has been a journey of me also getting sick before the presentation, besides all the other things that happen. So I went to Delhi, I went to different locations, and I talked with experts who kind of knew, that was their job, they knew the science behind it, but then I also talked to people who had lived experience and had interacted with those water sources. I documented images and videos from those places and kind of gathered all the information that I could. The first place I went to was one that was very close to heart. It's Hoskas. Hoskas means royal tank. It's very close to my home where I grew up. And it was built in the 14th century, and it was used to collect water for all the residents of the Siri dynasty. And it isn't in use anymore, though it does help the natural ecosystem, because the more water that's in the tank kind of benefits all the other wells in the neighborhood, because there's an increase in groundwater. But what I found really important about this is that the issue of Delhi not having water is not a new one. In the 14th century, they knew that Delhi's an arid climate. And when it rains, it's important to collect the water and save it for when there isn't enough water. And it's just a really beautiful place to go visit, too. The second place I went to was the Yamuna. It's a giant river, so I went to one place along the river. This river provides about 70% of all the water to Delhi. But when it enters the city, it loses its quality dramatically. 15 drains drain their water into the river. And the point where I went to was a barrage, so the image on the left is kind of where the water is held, and the water isn't flowing, and it's very dry, and there were a couple cows grazing, as not uncommon in Delhi. And then the other side was lush and beautiful and green, where the water was flowing. And then the third place I was very fortunate to visit was the Okla water treatment plant. This is a treatment plant in Delhi that processes about 20 million gallons per day, which is the second largest treatment plant in the city. And it was made up, you can see in the image over there, these huge they look like cereal bowls, really large cereal bowls filled with water, and they go through different stages of processing. And they go through that kind of really muddy stage over there I'll show you the clean one in a second. But what really impressed me when I was there is the people that I met. I wasn't expecting that. Someone needs to be there 24/7 of the day. Someone is always monitoring the plant and the quality of the water. And everyone I spoke with at the plant were so excited and passionate about the work they did. There was so much pride in keeping the water clean for the city. And it was this kind of mix of European standards that they were following and this kind of art of the humidity and the temperatures of Delhi and maintaining the water. So they took the water that's kind of cloudy over there and they transformed it into this. You can see all the way to the bottom of the tank. So now that I had mapped a few of the locations, I wanted to start sharing them with people who might be using too much water and talking to them about where their water comes from to build that connection. And this is where I got kind of one of those hiccups, and things weren't working out as I had planned them to. I was trying to find a perfect arena to share this information, somewhere where we could talk about these places that felt comfortable. And then one day an aunt of mine came over, and my mom and I and my aunt, but lots of aunts come up in this story, but this is the first aunt, we were in the kitchen and we were making tea. And there was something so familiar about it. I feel like I've done it 1,000 times in my life without paying attention to it. It's the smell of the tea. It's this red color of the tea. I remember my grandmother making tea. And that's when it came to me that my project could really be about tea. And I developed these things called Pani ke bare mein chai, or tea about water. And using teas and the lessons that I learned from that aunt and all the other aunties in this project and who have been in my life, and my mom and everybody, to kind of leverage these existing systems to share about what I had learned and spread that wonder that I felt when I went to these different water locations. because chais are a gathering space that has been co-designed, co-created, and iterated upon for generations. It's something that I've been studying in school, and it was this moment for me to go back home and be like, there are powerful aunties who have been doing this already, and there's so much I can learn from them too. And the chais that I hosted about water had 3 parts. The first was Betty, please sit, so get comfortable, have some snacks, just settle down a little bit. Sometimes these would take longer than I had planned in my structured agenda-ness, and I learned that that was okay because agendas don't really work for chais. Next was Batcheat or chit-chat. I wanted to leverage kind of how when we were kids, we used to have like 4x6 printed glossy photographs after a family holiday, and just use an informal setting of the chai of like sharing pictures of the water places I'd been to and the stories that I'd heard, and use that kind of informal setting for it. And the last part was tofa, or a gift, and this was something to take away. This kind of looked like a little tag, that blue thing on the side, which had the date, who it was for, and who it was from, a checklist of water conservation practices that made sense for the neighborhood. The back sheet had kind of what we'd done in the chai, an overview, my looser agenda, and then there were these stickers that had images from the places I'd gone to that were meant to be placed on water access points, so placed on taps and water bottles to kind of bridge that gap from where your water is being used and from where it's actually coming from. And the last step is sustaining, and as this year comes to a close for us, and I start to step away a little bit for this project, I've been thinking about how it can live on beyond me going to thesis class every Monday. And from talking to the people, the aunties and others that I did the workshops with, it felt like a website was the best way to kind of hold all this information as a way for people to refer back on, to have all the stories that I talked about during the chai, or for someone to have a new chai, host a new chai themselves, so download the resources and hold a whole new one. So it's a website now, and it lives on where'syourwaterfrom.webflow.io. And I'd like to end again with thanks. And thanks to the Ganga, thanks to the Yamuna, and thanks to the rainwater in the ground. Thank you.